We are live.
Hey.
Hey, hello everybody. We're back. Katrina and Tom, Park right here. Come in, everybody. We are the Park Right Here podcast for Parkinson's. I am Katrina,
I'm
Tom, and
Tom.
we have our new Parkie friend, Chris, from Rocky Gap,
Hello.
Virginia.
Welcome to the island of misfit toys.
He DM'd me, and
Yep.
we're going to try to work together and get a support group back up to Bluefield.
Yep.
And which I'm very thankful for, because we need more resources out here in the Appalachians of Virginia and West Virginia. So we're going to let Chris start it off today, and he's going to tell us the beginning of his Parkinson's journey, because we want everybody in the community to know that we all have our stories and that we're not, and we want you guys to know that you're not alone, because I know this disease process is not easy, and we all can find strength in each other and our stories, and maybe Chris will have something that can lift your spirits today.
Just to jump in real quick, one of the things I like to tell, especially newly diagnosed people, is you've got to find a support group. As much as your family and friends are going to try to help you, they just don't understand. Like, as I was telling somebody who had cancer, I can never understand your cancer, but I'm here for you. But when two people with cancer, two people with Parkinson's connect, there's that instant sort of like camaraderie. You share the same experience.
Oh, very much so. I like to tell people that if you're ever around a group of Parkies and they all get together, I don't know if it's like just it's an unspoken commonality, I guess, that you don't have to tell them. They can, hey, I'm having a bad day. They can tell just by looking. And like you said, it's that you can try to explain to friends and family and whatnot as much as you can, but they just, unless you're on this side of it, you really just don't know.
But we like to go on a lot of tangents, so I'm going to go off on my first tangent of the day. You mentioned Parkies. Does your Parkinson community find that? Some people find that term offensive, which I don't understand.
No, the group that I'm with online, we're so warped and deranged that.
That's good.
I mean, no,
almost fit right in.
Well, and I mean, it's we've got this disease condition, and I mean, if we can't make fun of ourselves,
bingo, there you go.
Right? I mean, there's a lot of other things going on that's more serious than whether you're a nickname of Parkies kind of thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, a friend of mine, he had T-shirts made up with Shaky Squad on it. So
I like that.
So there's honestly, I've maybe only met one or two people that have actually said, why do you call yourself that? That's not, you shouldn't do that. But I mean, everybody else is like, hey, I like it. So
yeah,
I want to get one from Amazon. It says, "I'm not drunk. I just have Parkinson's."
Yeah. There's tangents. Yeah, I'll remember that one.
Well, there's at least 5 in any given episode. So right now we're 1 out of 5.
Gotcha.
Did you hear about the new book from the guy from Together for Sharon? He wrote a book called Policing and Parkinson's.
Yes.
George, yeah, he was on the podcast, and we were on his podcast, and it was funny because it happened the same week that I got dyskinesia, and I was driving, so I pulled over to McDonald's in the handicap spot, no less, with my placard on it, and I was just sitting there, and I was talking to my sister on the phone about a medical thing with my aunt, and I hear a knock at my window. There they were. There was a Richland Police Department. Somebody had called the police on me because they didn't know what was going on, and I was dyskinetic and
Oh yeah.
dyskinesia, and they asked me what was wrong with me, and luckily I had um from APDA you can get a little card that says I have
Yeah.
Parkinson's, and it has um your emergency contact person's name and number and stuff on the back, and I also had my Abbott DBS card,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I had
Those
to
are
show that.
those are those
I
are
gave
always
him
handy to have with you.
Yeah, and I gave him my wallet though because I couldn't get my driver's license out. And then the lady, one of the crew members, came out and asked if I was having a stroke, and I said no, I just have Parkinson's, and she let me go in, and I had to. My big mistake was I didn't have my medication with me, so.
Yeah.
But my daughter was mad at me. She was afraid one of her friends saw me. I'm like,
Children can be so easily embarrassed.
oh yes,
I said, but mom.
yep. But that was
But
like I mean that the way George hit that book. I saw that book come out, and I'm like, that is perfect. I'm gonna take it
I mean,
down.
there is this whole deal about things happening at the right time, and so
And I remember on one of the first podcasts, the guy from Georgia who's a pastor and a lawyer, he said if you ever get pulled over and they ask you to do a what do you call it?
Field
the
sobriety test.
Field
yeah.
sobriety test, refuse it. He said, do not ever
Oh
do
yeah,
it.
I'd fail that on a good day.
Yeah, me too. I could be totally
With
on. I would.
Mhm.
That would be that's the one thing in physical therapy I always failed. He said, refuse to do it. They can't arrest you for it.
Mm.
So there's my word of wisdom for the day.
All right,
So, Chris,
well,
Katrina
go
said
ahead,
that
Tom.
you're trying to start a support group.
Yes,
How's that going?
it's been challenging to say the least,
Yeah.
and mostly just from my aspect of it. Like I've found a place to have it. They've agreed to, they're just saying, pick a date and go from there. It's just the organizational side, like trying to get, the Parkie brain to do all the things it's supposed to. And granted, I'm not going to lie, before Parkinson's, I wasn't the most organized person in the world. So I've always struggled with that, but it's just trying to, pick a date, get things going. I've got several contacts that I have pulled from the old group that kind of just faded away a few years. I guess it's been about 5 years. And so it's just trying to tick all the boxes off at the at the right time to get it
Have you
back
been able
together.
to find a number of individuals who wish to participate? Because that's one of those hard things. You don't put like an ad in the front window saying
Yeah.
Parkinson's support group meeting.
Right.
Come join us.
Right. I mean, I've heard from, I guess, probably 6 or 7 folks like in person, and then maybe half a dozen more through friends of friends kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think, it's not going to be a huge group, because I think the previous group, there was maybe, I think the email list had like 25, but most of the times when, you were at the meetings, there was maybe 10.
Yeah.
There was like 3 or 4 of the core group that was always there, and then you would have folks that would, kind of cycle in and out. But and that was the big thing, was that, just the distances that they would have to come. I mean, there were several, and I know you probably don't know the geography down here, but there were several that would travel from up near Beckley to Bluefield, which is, close to an hour drive kind of thing. But
yeah, I recently went to a local Parkinson group, because the large one is about an hour plus drive. And in the summer, where I live off the Atlantic Ocean, and tourism in the summer makes it even that much longer. But I walked in. I said, I'm 65. It was me and two couples in their 80s. And at the end, he said, "Well, this is a small group." I'm like, "Well, thank you, but I don't think I'll be coming back." And she's like, "Why?" I said, "Well, nothing against your group, but I have absolutely nothing in common with two couples in their 80s."
Yeah, I was easily 25, 30 years the junior of everybody that was there. I think probably towards the end, like right before the group kind of disbanded, there was one young lady. I'd say she was 52, 53 that started coming. And I mean, granted, there's knowledge and wisdom that you can glean off of the older folks, but it's a completely different process of things that as young onset, excuse me, that we go through and face daily, that they don't get to that part of it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those, like, it's us and them, and I'm like, and me in the middle, because the YOPD movement is so vastly different than the over 65 community, and almost every single aspect, just from the disease management, from the length of time, working, family, children, so much different.
I keep wondering when you, like, if and when you age out of young onset, even though you're it's based more so on diagnosis, but I mean, at some point, you have to transfer from young onset.
It's like going from junior high school to high school.
Right. And just to regular, you go from young onset to regular Parkinson's kind of thing.
Right. There's a really good, strong young onset group in Elizabethton, Tennessee, which is right near the Tri-Cities, right near Bristol. And I've been to their group. They're really strong, and they're really good on. They're real strong on Facebook. I'll send you an invite for their Facebook group.
Yeah, because I know I spoke with it's another
George.
From that one, I remember. I think I reached out to them a while back. I can't remember who it was I spoke with though, but they seemed very, very encouraging and willing to do whatever they could to help. So
there's another group that I belong to. It's YOPN, Young Onset Parkinson's Network.
Oh,
and for those in the listening audience, if you Google the name Anna Grill, ANNA Grill, GRILL, she's recently merged with a larger group, but for young onset, she covers all the bases.
She's a handful.
Yeah,
and I love her to death, and I don't know where she gets her energy from, truthfully.
Right.
Because I mean, just conversations that I've had with her, I'm like, girl, you exhaust me just watching you do stuff and listening.
Yeah.
And Mission PD, we have to push Mission PD too.
That's the thing. There's tons of resources out there, and I don't know if it's.
You gotta be careful.
I've been trying to figure out. Yeah.
You got to hear Tom's story.
Which one?
Your internet story.
The internet. Yeah, there's all
when
kinds
you
of
first got diagnosed.
happenings.
Oh, okay, yeah. So when I was first diagnosed, it was February. The official diagnosis was in February 2016, and my wife had previously made plans that following weekend to go visit her sister in California. So I said, "Go ahead. I'm fine. Just don't worry about it." And when she got back, I said, "You can never leave me alone with the internet again," because I almost got to the point that I bought a barrel of coconut oil because someone said you rub that on your head every day, it'll cure Parkinson's. It's like the latest snakeskin oil.
Right.
I'm constantly.
And did it work though?
Well, it made a lot of people like the smell of my hair, but that was about the extent of it. It became very popular with the dog community.
I was going to say, I could imagine doing that. My cats would be just licking my scalp constantly.
Yeah. But it's interesting because even to this point, finding resources for people who are recently diagnosed is so difficult. And I think for those who are thinking about starting or even belonging to a support group, that is a world of resources at your fingertip that can be extremely helpful.
Yeah,
Yep.
APDA is really good about putting up support groups all over the country.
Yeah.
So
Because
Now, are you looking
APDA,
for more of a group just to have shared conversation, or educational, or a combination of the both?
both. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a time for each of those during a meeting. I mean, you've got to share information that you find out, new stuff, new happenings, whatnot. You know, you bring mid reps in to talk about whatever they want because those guys bring the best snacks.
Absolutely. You know how you can tell
And
who they changed the rules now, but you know how you can tell who the pharmaceutical rep was
hmm,
in the doctor's office? Here's the one who brought in the deli tray.
oh yeah, yeah.
oh
They
man,
get you notice those folks get all of the attention once they come through the door.
Sure.
But
at the
yeah,
last at the Roanoke conference, Boston Scientific took us out to dinner. APDA out to dinner at the Roanoke
nice,
Inn, gave us $150
nice,
budget each.
Can I just get a burger and cash?
right.
So, what's the process that you're doing in order to try to start this group for other people who are considering the idea? What's your thoughts on the roadmap?
You got
I
to
can
make
help.
connections. You know,
Yeah,
you've got to get. You can try to do it alone, and it may work, but you've got to spread. You know, you can't carry it all by yourself. You've got to find some
hmm
other folks that have different talents. I mean, some people are better at just chatting, and some people are better at organizing, and some are better at just the networking side of it. And I mean, I'm sure there are, but I'm thinking it's probably a rare event that somebody has all of those. Everyone that excuse
sure.
me have all of those skill sets. But I mean, go online. You know, do searches from, like you said, go to Parkinson's.org, the APDA, different sites to see what's available in your area. And I think the thing that frustrated me the most is when I did that, like this entire central part of, well, it was South Central West Virginia and Southern West Virginia. When I searched, there was the closest thing that came up then, and this was almost 10 years ago when I was just after I was diagnosed. The closest that was showing up was always Richmond,
Mm,
which, isn't that far, I guess, technically. I mean, it's what, 4 or 5 hours for me to drive it.
that's a
But
drive, though.
yeah, I mean, there was just this huge gap. And, being from Southwest Virginia, living here, the majority of my life, there's the running bit that, according to folks in Northern Virginia, Richmond, Tidewater, that Virginia actually stops around Roanoke. But there's like, you can drive another 2.5, 3 hours west and still be in and never have left the state. So
I think that's
yeah.
more of a societal
Oh
splitting.
yeah, it is. I mean, that goes way back to political and whatnot from years and years ago.
When I lived in Baltimore, outside Baltimore, I was a Ravens fan, and you have a lot of Redskins fans. So we
Mhm.
tried to get a map one day and just to basically put a line of demarcation. If you're south of this line, then you're a
Yep,
Redskins fan. If you're north, you're going to be a Ravens fan.
yep. That was I did the same thing here with um, be attending UVA and living 45 minutes from Virginia Tech. It's weird the gap. So you have the UVA fans that stop just before Roanoke. Then from Roanoke to basically Tazewell County, it switches. You're still in Hokie land, and then from Richland
Okay.
from Tazewell on, it seems like it switches back to you're accepted if you are a UVA fan in that
Yeah.
area.
And what
So
is a Hokie? That's the burning question of
Tech,
the day.
Virginia Tech.
technically, it is a male castrated turkey.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I looked it
Yeah,
up once.
I mean it goes
So
being.
I'm
I
just
mean,
wondering why anybody would want to refer to themselves as a castrated turkey.
Only in
And the male
Virginia.
part doesn't need to be added. That just goes without saying if you're
yeah,
castrated. And
It's one of those things. Like the majority of my family and friends, that's where they went to school. I've actually attended more sporting events at Virginia Tech than I did when I was in Charlottesville. Mostly because growing up, the 4-H club in the fall, they would load us up on a bus and take us to football games or basketball games. So that was a good weekend trip for 13, 14-year-old kids. So.
Sure.
But yeah, so that's what were resources. That's
I was going off on a tangent.
It's believe me, I understand how easily we get distracted.
Yeah.
Because and like you said, you got to grab those thoughts and get them out of your head before they vanish forever, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's why don't leave home without it.
Oh yeah, very much so. Support groups, yeah. Find out your resources. At least try to make contact with a few people in the area that you'll find out quick if they want to help or participate, kind of thing.
Do you have any neurologists in your area? Probably not motion disorders, but any neurologists that work with Parkinson's?
There's maybe one or two, but I generally the original neurologist that I started seeing was in Christiansburg, which is 45 minutes an hour away, just outside of Blacksburg, actually. Because the first
where was it that you were going for DBS?
Wake Forest, Winston-Salem.
Winston-Salem, yeah, that's what that.
Because I started. So initially, we'll knock through the diagnosis story. Yeah, don't be offended if you see cats show up here. We have multiples.
I've got 4.
So if cat butt shows up, they're just saying hi. But
if I was in the living room, I'd be surrounded by 4.
Oh yeah. So initially, first I guess symptoms I noticed was my left side. So pinky and ring finger were getting slower when I was typing, or sometimes they would get stuck. And I was finding driving, I would have difficulty raising my arm up. Because you drive right-handed in the springtime, you roll your windows down, you hang your arm out the window.
Right.
Well, I was having issues getting my arm up to put it on the windowsill. And then I noticed too, I was having issues. I could turn the wheel counterclockwise, turning to the left. But if I had to turn clockwise, turning right, I would kind of have to grab the gear shift and turn and kind of lean into it.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, well, let's go check this out. First neurologist I go to, it's pinched nerve, neck, shoulder, something.
Yep.
Go through that process.
You must have the same doctor.
Sounds familiar.
You've got a pain shooting through your neck here that comes down behind your shoulder blade. I mean, it does line up, right? I mean, it makes sense. So MRIs, I did a hydro scraping therapy session, which was not as enjoyable as it seems.
What is
Basically,
that? I've never heard of that.
They inject saline and some type of inflammatory down next to the nerve. And sometimes if you're injecting stuff next to the nerve, it may tap that nerve, which yeah, that's not fun. I couldn't tell you how many rounds of physical therapy and chiropractor visits. I did see a spinal surgeon, and just to kind of rule out. He said, yeah, you do have some discs that look a little rough. He says, but I wouldn't, they're not bad enough. I wouldn't operate on you. So went through all of that, kind of exhausted all of the local resources here, and decided wanted to see another physician. Found the doctor in Christiansburg. I walk in, she's like, you've either had a stroke or you've had Parkinson's. And I was like, I just walked in. I hadn't even started talking to you yet. And she's like, well, I have. She's like, your right arm or your left arm isn't swinging when you walk. And I was like, I hadn't really paid attention to that because of it, just the nerve itself being angered. So, then of course MRIs, whatnot, to rule out strokes. And then surprisingly enough, she actually ordered a DAT scan for me.
Really?
It was approved, and I had the scan within 2 weeks.
No kidding.
Wow.
I'm surprised it was approved.
Right. I mean, everybody else that I've talked to, they're like, "Oh, I had the worst time trying to get a DAT scan done."
And for those who don't know what a DAT scan is, can you elaborate on that?
It's it's nuclear medicine kind of thing. So you got to go in, you take the iodine, whatever, and then they inject you with it with I can't remember what the exact what the exact element is, but they inject that, and then it's basically just like a CT scan kind of thing. And this chemical, it will bond with your dopamine centers in your brain to show you. I mean, it kind of lights them up so you can see how well they're working, I guess, how well they're performing.
Yeah.
And I mean, mine looked like it lined up. One side was okay. The other side, I think it said, was the words were truncated. Maybe I think was. I mean, the right side looked like a dot. The other side was more like a comma because there was spots that weren't functioning as they were supposed to.
Okay.
And so yeah, and it's not 100%, but given that time, it was the best that was available, kind of thing.
Sure.
And it was kind of new to the area. Nobody in the New River Valley area was even qualified to read the test. So, but yeah, did that. Then came back, got the call that with those results, she's like, okay, we need to send you to an MDS for confirmation. And that's when I went to Wake, and the first visit I had with my MDS there, she spent almost 3.5, 4 hours.
Wow.
Doing that. Yeah, I mean, and it was one of those.
Capital W.
I was surprised, but it was one of those. If one thing I think is the most important with this is that if you find a physician, and this will probably go for any kind of, any medical professional, that you can just talk to. I mean, communicate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had a rapport almost instantly that we just kind of like we'd been friends forever. And that was.
It's very important.
Right. And like you said, I mean, I didn't think it was almost 3.5 hours that we were there. But once I got out and I was like, wow, it's getting kind of dark.
Especially a chronic illness. Yeah. It's that you're gonna have for a long time and you're gonna have to deal with every day. And it's like I'm messaging my MDS back and forth that it's a 4-hour drive to UVA. Yeah. And he remembers, and he's like, oh, yeah, because I'm late on my Botox for dystonia. Mm-hmm. And because in December the clinic had to close because of the storms,
right,
and everything, and he didn't have any openings until February, so the Botox is going off, and so I've had a couple of bad bouts with the dystonia, and we've had to but he gets back like that day. He gets back on, and for University of Virginia, that's like he's a wonderful doctor.
So. Oh yeah. How long have you been doing Botox injections, if you don't mind me asking?
About 1.5 years, something like that. I'm gonna have the youngest looking feet and left leg.
See, I did it. I did it for probably about 3 years, and it was neck, shoulder, forearm, and my legs, calves. They never actually did it in injections in my feet, and it worked, and I was very thankful that it did work. But I started noticing a lot of just muscle fatigue and just loss
Doesn't
of
the
muscle.
Botox basically eat at the
Kills the
muscle?
muscle. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it was, I mean, and I'm just now starting to get back, but you could tell like my muscles in my neck were visibly weaker on the left side than they were on the right, and got to the point that I couldn't, like, just picking up, well, I'm trying to see, I've got a hairbrush here. Like, it would be difficult for me to actually pick that up because I had lost so much muscle mass on my left side.
Wow.
But yeah, it was, and I think I did it when I'm thankful I had them when I did, because it did help with the dystonia and just the pain from, constantly thinking that if you drew a line from behind my left ear down my neck and down the inside of my shoulder blade, it felt like somebody had just stuck me with an ice pick and just held it there, because it was just, that muscle was just angry all the time. But yeah, that helped a lot.
Well, I like your point about the MDS. You've got to be able to have a conversation.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's like my doctor. I get at least a half hour with him. I see him twice a year, and he's just somebody that I've seen him probably 18 to 20 times now, and there's just that sense of comfort, and we know each other, and it makes it so much better. You guys showing off all the voice?
Yeah.
This is
Ambrosia.
Yep. This is as good as the Botox for the
dystonia. The only toy I have is a squeezable brain.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the Ambrosia has helped. I mean, I wish they would do something about adding some flavor to it other than chalk.
How quickly does the Ambrosia take to kick in?
About 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say 10, 15 minutes that you can tell.
Yeah, I was at my doctor in Colorado that I had when we were stationed out in Fort Carson, our last duty station. The doctor I had actually came out of retirement to only take Parkinson's patients. He was on the team that actually, with Michael J. Fox Foundation, to come up with Ambrosia. He, so I was one of the first ones that started using this. I was the first one in the military healthcare system to use it, and then I was one of the first ones at UC Health and the Colorado Springs area to use it. And then the military had to go straight to the pharmaceutical company until it went on the market to get it for me. But I figured out to take little small puffs and drink water so you could take it. And it took them until last year to change the instructions.
Right.
To know what I knew in 2017.
The only real issue I've had with it is if I have to take more than like two doses a day, that for like the next 24 hours, I've got just sore throat.
What medications are you on?
Carbidopa, levodopa, and I take Ongentys.
Now, the carbidopa, levodopa, do you have? I'm assuming you're experiencing off time because of the Ambrosia.
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly that was the first med that they tried me on, and I reacted well to it. So we just kept on with it. I tried Ritari at once, and it seemed like it was too inconsistent. Like some of the doses seemed like they would work, and then some days it was just like it was a sugar tablet. It just wouldn't do what it was supposed to. So I was on that for 3 months maybe, and then just switched back to just the good old blue chalky tablet that is carbidopa, levodopa.
You say blue? Mine's yellow. That's funny.
Well, I was on 25-250, which was blue.
Okay. Since
DBS, they bumped me back to 25-100 because amazingly I was able to cut back almost by half.
How many are you taking now?
I take, well, my script has it written to take two tablets of 25/100 milligrams 4 times a day, and then I do have an extended release that I take at night. And there's, some days I may have to take more than, those 8 pills. Some days I can take maybe 6. It just depends. I mean, granted, with the snow, weather, cold, barometric pressure, everything else that's been going on in this part of the country lately, the weather has been kicking my butt. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Oh yeah.
So,
Amen. Oh, negative.
What I've done is I take 6 25/100 tablets a day, 600 milligrams. But we broke it up into every 2.5 hours. I take one tablet. So I was trying to mimic the Rotary in a sense I figured if I can take the same amount but at closer intervals, it would smooth out the peaks and valleys.
It does, but if that schedule goes off rails, even by just a little bit, I mean, that was kind of the main reason why I actually decided to go ahead and do DBS, because my med timing regimen had become so strict. Just, that, if there were any kind of external influences, if I ate, if I had a big meal, if I had, that extra slice of pizza that I probably shouldn't have eaten.
No, you never should not eat an extra slice of pizza. That's always forgiven.
Well, I'm one of those that I guess is blessed with, it's not really protein interference, but I have to watch how much and when I eat in relations to when I take my meds.
Yeah, my doctor said either half hour before or wait till an hour afterwards.
Yeah. And I try to adhere to that, but there's sometimes that it just doesn't matter. I mean, I can eat a, monstrous bacon cheeseburger, or I can have a salad, and it just, sometimes I'm just off.
Mm-hmm.
I had a doctor tell me that you should eat 2 kiwis a day. That's as good as taking Miralax, because if you get constipated, that's going to mess up your meds too.
Right. But see, I've never,
before or after you rub your hair with coconut oil.
Yeah.
She said, I would rather eat 2 kiwis a day than take Miralax. I don't like Miralax.
Oh, yeah. And thankfully, I've not had issue with my digestive system slowing that would cause any kind of. Well, now I say that, but that was the pain meds that they gave me after surgery. That'll do it too. But normally, day to day, I mean, I'm still
just a regular guy,
moving right along,
pretty regular. Yeah, which because you hear that. You hear that you have issues with, your meds and protein interference and whatnot. Immediately, everybody thinks, well, it's a gastric delay issue, gastric emptying delay issue. I never had that because it was
gastroparesis.
Yep. I mean, because I was worried about it, and then we were talking to the doctor, and she's like, "Well, do you have regular bowel movements?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, how many? What, 1 or 2 a week?" And I was like, "Sometimes 1 or 2 a day." So I was like, I'm pretty, that part of me still hasn't been affected yet, thankfully. So
I was talking to somebody recently, or they were going over a survey of my symptoms and such. And I was talking about, do you have sudden urges of urination? How's your digestive system? And it was funny because I mentioned to her, I said, if I met you 20 years ago in a bar, I don't think I'd be talking to you about urine and stool samples. But what is this thing? Look what this has done to us. We're having an open conversation about
there is no right. You
I mean, wanted to say pull my finger.
Right. There's no shame. I mean, anymore. You can't be embarrassed by it because. No. But yeah, the urination part, the urgency, yeah, do have that when I wake up. But I also had a stint, probably 15, 20 years ago. Every summer, right around my birthday, which is in August, I would spend a couple of days going to the ER for kidney stones. which, apparently in our region, this nice limestone calcium cave region, which makes the water taste really good, isn't the best for your kidneys. So like drink lots, and of course they say if you have kidney stones, drink lots of water. Well, you do, but if if your water has high calcium, or from it being your well being drilled through a limestone cliff on your property, there may be, you may not be helping yourself as much as you thought you were. So
time to buy the big gallons at the grocery store.
Yeah, but that stuff just tastes horrible, right? I know water's supposed to be flavorless, but my water's always had, flavor. I mean, growing up with the calcium based water we had, it actually had a sweet flavor to it almost. But it was horrible. It was horrible on washing machines, and it was horrible on hot water heaters, just because there was just so much buildup from it. So if it's messing with that, those devices, it's got to be doing something to us as well. But just one of those joys of, there's always something that you come up with just a day to day, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so so we did diagnosis. I think we got through all of that.
Yeah.
We did the meds. Oh, have you all spoken with anyone that has tried or is in the process of Vylev, I guess, the subcutaneous pump that's available here in the States now?
I know one person who has the pump.
That actually has it.
No, I don't know if it's that. He's had a pump for quite some time. I don't know if he has a new pump.
Yeah, this one just came out. Well, it just got approval. I want to say maybe spring or summer of 24. So I'm interested in it just for the fact that you can better control your dosages of your meds.
Yeah. For those who don't know, what he's referring to is it's like a continuous feed of liquid carbidopa, levodopa.
Basically,
it bypasses the intestinal tract in the stomach.
Yeah,
it goes directly into the bloodstream, I believe, and then it circulates to the brain much faster with less. And since you're wearing it 24/7, basically, it gives you that constant smooth feed of the medication.
Yeah, I of course. Well, we spoke about it at my last programming session last month, and we checked, and since it's new, my insurance isn't going to cover it initially. So, but I think the doctor said they have a pretty decent, I think it's AbbVie that does it. Yeah. Apparently they've got a pretty good, patient assistance program.
Yeah, I almost think they would have to, because if insurance isn't covering it, then it's pretty much a useless product.
Well, and it's look, it's just, I mean, it's not been out for a year, so I mean, of course they're, they've done the trials and whatnot, but they don't have the mass of people taking it yet. Yeah, to see how effective it is. So,
this is going to be almost sad, but my son works in the AI field, and I was asking, why don't they ever do machine learning or whatever for Parkinson's? He said, Dad, there's just enough. There's not enough of you. We need much more people in order to generate the data. So I'm hoping they're never able to generate that
right.
data. Because that means there's too many of us.
I mean, we are the fastest growing neurological condition, right?
Yeah. I like to try to put things in better perspective. They say roughly 100,000 people a year are diagnosed with Parkinson's. If you go to New York Giants Stadium, that holds like 102,000 people. So just imagine that stadium completely filled with 100,000 people, and those are the people. That number of people will be diagnosed any given year. It just makes it. It just sounds like
we did
realistic.
I think it was 2 years ago, I believe. Myself, myself and a couple other friends, we thought we had this grand idea that World Parkinson's Day on the 11th. We were going to do we were wanting to do a 24-hour live stream. Well, we didn't quite make it to 24 hours, but we got close. But the theme of it was that every 6 minutes, someone was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So we were just, chatting, playing games, doing whatever during the day. But we had an alarm set on a countdown timer. Every 6 minutes,
Ding.
the alarm went off. And the first hour or so, you're like, okay. After about the fourth or fifth hour of hearing that, you really started to notice that this is kind of getting really annoying. But then you go back to the fact that, it was almost like, in A Wonderful Life, every time.
I was just going to say that. It's like,
right. Every time the alarm goes off, a Parkie gets his meds kind of thing or whatever.
That was funny because that's exactly what I was going to just mention.
Yeah. See, I mean, we're all warped, right? This stuff.
It's funny because someone once asked me, it was interesting because I've always been a little edgy, if you will. And I got a call from one of our fellow ambassadors years ago and said, Tom, I think you're manic. You need to get off your meds immediately. And I didn't know how to respond to that because I knew it came from a place of, first is like, what the hell? You're not my doctor. I don't know you. But then I realized that they're just trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that, I told us that this is me, if this is caused by the medication or Parkinson's, I've had Parkinson's since I was born because I've always been a little, but I find that in the world to survive, I like humor. I like to find things that you have to, and I call myself a lightning rod for stupidity because I don't have any issues making fun of myself. If I do something stupid and it's Parkie related, I don't care sharing that. At the end of the day, I don't really, nothing against people. They don't like me for who I am. I really don't care.
No, you have to. I mean, like you said, and those are the stories, that I was trying to think of a good one that I had. It'll come to me here a little bit.
Well, I try to tell people too is what's important is to know your market as well. What I can goof off with you is vastly different than. So that's my biggest challenge is keeping in the forefront. What market am I in?
Yeah, I've just been one of these people that I never liked the whole bit of formality and being really serious. Because there is a time and place for it, but every once in a while you just kind of have to break out and just crack a joke or laugh or, something just to break up the monotony. So.
Yep.
I remember in basic training going to the drill sergeant saying, drill sergeant, you actually work for me. And I had to explain that one to him. I said, it's simple. I get paid. They take federal taxes out of my pay. Federal taxes are collected and you get paid by those federal taxes. So indirectly, I'm your boss. And that cost me like 50 push-ups.
I was going to say, how well did that work out for you?
Very well.
Yeah. Like you said, it's a coping mechanism, right?
Yeah.
It's what we have to do to get through the day because number one, it's hard. Like, not going to lie to you. It's tough dealing with this every single day, right? And realizing that barring some, I don't know, I guess at this point almost miracle that, a drug or a procedure or something comes out and says, hey, this fixes it. Well, then you got to wait for the testing process and then you got to wait for the trial process. And then you got to wait, and then you got to wait for production or whatever to ramp up. So even if they did,
insurance companies to cover it.
Yeah. So if they announce, today's the 23rd. So if January 24th, they said we found a way to cure Parkinson's, you're what, at least 5-10 years away from that hitting everybody by the time it goes through all of its processes. But you've got to figure out what your individual way is of coping with it.
Yeah, there's so many.
Mine's levity and humor, the dark sarcasm, if you will, kind of things.
I'm on Facebook now because some groups, and I notice there's a lot of Facebook ads on Parkinson's where 5 ways to cure Parkinson's. Different things like how, and I'm like, it's all crap because there isn't a way at this point to cure Parkinson's.
No. Exercise, keep moving. When I say exercise, I'm nowhere near Jimmy Choi level exercise.
So when you say exercise, I always have to plug this book because he's a friend of mine.
Yep.
Well, let's see. How to reduce symptoms through exercise? Buy it. Amazon.com.
There's, if some days, if I get up, make my coffee, make it to the bathroom, take my meds, brush my teeth, if I can manage to get all of that done and, get in the floor and do some stretches and maybe, a couple of push-ups or something, or do some, leg lifts, that's a pretty, some days that's.
Oops.
Oh, there we go. I thought for a second there, the cat had stepped on the keyboard. But yeah, just keep moving, right? I mean, always kind of be in motion of some sort. Not the tremor or the, outside of tremor or the dyskinesia motion, but some type of controlled motion. And
I'd like to do a plug for everybody. If you don't know Dr. Corcus, Corcos, Google Dr. Daniel Corcus. He's at Northwestern in Chicago, and he does a tremendous amount of research on exercise and Parkinson's.
I think that name sounds very familiar.
About exercise and Parkinson's, I don't think I could do it. Corcos, Daniel Corcus. He's got a lot of videos out there on YouTube.
That may have where I have Corcos, right? Well, it brings up dog. Let me put doctor in front of it and see if that get a little more specific. Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that, physical therapy and human. I have looked at some of his stuff. Yeah,
he's got really good stuff.
That's what it was. The one first video came up with the urban polling.
Oh yeah,
I remember a buddy of mine, Eric Aquino, which I don't know if you guys have seen his stuff. He does Gray Strong Foundation foundation that he has. He was all excited. He met with a couple folks from the urban polling, and they sent a couple of polls for him to try and work with. All right, come on, Kitty, jump down for a second. So yeah, that I do remember looking at his stuff.
I actually have 2 sets of the urban polls in my house because they were given to certain people within the Davis Finney Foundation to help educate people on how to use them. Right. But it kind of went by the wayside.
Well, and it's like with any exercise. There's an ebb and flow. I mean, everybody I've seen lately is all about pickleball.
By the way, I'll be playing tonight.
There you go.
I play at least 3 times a week, maybe 4, and it's like an hour and a half to 2.
I mean, from what I can see, I don't know if it is supposed to be the idea is supposed to be as intense as what it's gotten. Because I think at least several of the friends I know that play regularly, they say that it has brought out the hidden, basically. Well, that's the hidden competition, that was.
Well, the groups that we play with, we know each other. It's more of a social pickleball, but we play to win.
Oh yeah.
But the funny thing is, if I blow a shot, they yell at me like, "Tom, how can you do that? You're a moron." But it's done out of love.
Right. I mean, a friend of mine, he came the other day. He's like, we were talking, and he's like, gosh, my ribs are just hurt. And I was like, what happened? He says, well, we were playing pickleball, and I dove for a shot, and he cracked 3 of his ribs. And I'm like, well, I was like, you might want to just ease up just a little bit there. But
I'm the only one in this group with Parkinson's, but we have a rule that you don't chase balls, you don't backpedal for balls. It's just a game. Right. And if you're chasing a ball or backpedaling, even if you don't get hurt, we're going to call you out.
Right.
Because it's just a game.
I said, I would have had issue, diving if I were, 18 or 20 and healthy. I was like, I just, for if it was my livelihood and it meant, winning a national championship or whatever, and, bringing home a big paycheck. Yeah. But like you said, if it's social, you gotta have a set limit there, because
Well, I also find that the older the person is and the more like elbow pads and knee pads and braces he wears, the better he is. Those players are good.
Because they know, they come prepared, right?
Yeah, they know, like they set their feet, they plant their feet, and they don't move. When I first started playing, I didn't want to. Most people didn't know I had Parkinson's. I wanted to sort of keep it that way because it wasn't that I was embarrassed, but I just didn't want to be known as the guy with Parkinson's. So as I got to know them, I told them about my journey. In one game, I just blew a shot. I mean, I was stupid blowing the shot. I deserved to be like yelled at. But one friend said, "Hey, Tom, don't blame it on the Parkinson's. You just suck." And I came up to him afterwards, and that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. He wasn't expecting that, but that was extremely nice of you.
There you go. And like you said, only good friends could make that comment.
Yeah,
right.
But I still want to beat him on the court.
Oh yeah, of course. We're debating the whole virtual golf.
No, that's no exercise. You're not even walking the course with that one, unless you hit the ball and then you walk around your house 4 times.
Well, yeah, there's parts of it, but that it's the whole competition part of it that we'll discuss too. So. But it's I mean, just find something that you enjoy and just do it, and try to move every little bit because, I think back, my grandfather was diagnosed with Parkinson's late 60s kind of thing. And I remember this was, probably 15 years or so after. And he had issues with his balance and whatnot. And he would, I'd go to visit him and he would look and he says, "Chris," he says, "if I could just go out," he said, "if I think they just, if your grandmother and your aunt would let me go out and just sweep the porch," he's like, "I think I'd feel better." But, at the time, this was mid 90s, I guess. So the main idea was just more medication. Right. And like you said, him being, he would have been close to 80. Well, yeah, he would have been in his 80s by then.
I was talking to somebody once, and she said her husband was diagnosed, and he's sort of just given up. He just sits in the chair all day. And I asked her, I asked her a question: "How does he eat?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "How does he eat?" She goes, "I bring him his lunch, whatever, in his chair." I'm like, I don't mean this the wrong way, but you're doing more harm than good. Yeah. You're enabling him. You need to tell him to put the food on the table, and if you want to eat, get your ass out of the chair and you sit down at the table.
Yeah, it's an easy. Well, it's one of the laws of motion, right? Objects at rest will stay at rest unless acted on by an external force.
There you go. Words of wisdom.
So you gotta. I mean, hey, that's physics, man. That's.
I didn't know we went off to the physics tangent.
Well, that was. I was the geeky kid that liked math and science growing up.
Same here.
But yeah, you just got to do something, and like you said, just that fact of him having to get up and go to the table or whatnot. I mean, it's a start.
They say every journey starts with a step.
Yep.
And the the reality is too that the only thing proven to reduce the progression is not just exercise, but high intensity.
High intensity. Mm-hmm.
I still have a point where doctors say any exercise is good exercise. I'm like, bullshit. I said, walking around the block with your wife is better than doing nothing.
Nothing,
but
right?
If you're exercising to help reduce or slow the progression, that isn't doing it.
You've got to get that heart rate up.
And Dr. Corkus, in the book, they recommend. He uses the spin bikes, but Peloton, you can do it on rowing machines or anything. Is if you can get 40 minutes of high intensity exercise 3 times a week, that's the key.
Yeah.
And then if you do yoga or stretching and body weights, that adds.
It's extra, yeah. And it makes sense because I mean, if you describe if alpha synuclein is what's causing all of our problems. I've seen studies that they're saying it's basically kind of like plaque in the brain or arteries for blood. You've got to, with that high intensity, you're raising, your blood pressure, you're raising your core temperature high enough that it's helping to flush that system out, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, we got to, look, I don't do nearly enough, cardio as I know I should, or especially high intensity stuff. But it's I'm still, gosh, what, 5 months post op surgery, so I'm still kind of dealing with issues from that.
Yeah.
Sort of stiffness. This little spot here where the battery and device is, like it's itchy.
So
And
those
it's still kind of
questions I'll
sore.
ask people, knowing what you know right now, would you still had the surgery 6 months ago?
Yes.
Good. That's a great answer.
I mean, as frustrating as it is, because you have to be realistic with your expectations going into it.
Mhm.
If you convince
Definitely.
yourself, that you're going to have this, it's going to fix everything, you're going to be extremely disappointed.
I agree. I like going with low expectations so I can exceed them.
Well, and it's the fact that it's a process too. I mean, you know, I remember during surgery when they're doing the placements and they're testing everything, and they were testing the right side first, and they hit it, and doctor's like, raise your arm up, do the
So you were
test.
awake?
Oh yeah, I was awake the entire time, all 7 hours of procedure. Um, it was
So now
fun.
it's a
It
stupid
was
question.
kind of
It's not like you get
sure.
a bathroom break, right?
Well,
It's kind of like
you,
they put you in an adult diaper
so,
and say,
so
"You
so
must have-"
thankfully, I did not have a catheter during that. But they said, if I had to go, they were saying, we'd bring you a bedpan kind of thing, because
Oh,
once you're locked in,
you're locked in.
right. But yeah, it was. Oh, they hit the spots, and you realize how well it can work if everything is tuned perfectly. But my first programming session, after they turned it on, they started on the right side, of course, because that was the newly impacted side. Uh, it lined out pretty quick. The left side, however, is being a little more challenging, and so I am non-tremor dominant. So apparently, with the GPI placement that I had, it's it reacts better to smaller adjustments over a longer period of time.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm waiting to see more AI involvement in that because if
It's
I mean, if you can have the AI and it can monitor the changes and then adjust them accordingly, that's so much
Yeah.
better.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because, like you said,
Oh,
you're just doing little tweaks, and
yeah.
then did you
Yeah.
consider focus ultrasound at all, or did they even discuss that?
We talked about it, but I would rather, I like the idea of, once you do the focused ultrasound, I mean, that's kind of a one-off-ish kind of thing. I mean, you could have it multiples, but I like the idea of DBS more so that you were able to tune it, adjustments kind of things. So,
Sure.
and
But you
real
can't
real
tune focus
real world
ultrasound.
activity. Yeah.
Once they shoot the brain with the
Yeah.
ultrasound, there's no
Yeah.
tuning it.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was that. I mean, they were both very popular options at the time. So, but
One of
yes,
the reasons I drive 2.5 hours to see my neurologist because I live in Delaware now. I met
okay.
him when I was in Baltimore, but he's with the University of Maryland. What I like about it is they do both ultrasound, focus
Yeah,
ultrasound, and they do DBS.
yeah,
Because when the time comes, hopefully the time will never come, but I'll be honest, DBS scares the shit out of me.
right. I mean, who voluntarily decides to have brain surgery?
It's funny when you're a kid, you say it's easy. It's not brain surgery. Well, yes, it is. It's brain surgery.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a hospital and let them drill two holes in my head,
Yep.
put in rods, put grommets in for my nubbins here.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's I was
That's,
awake.
that's, good.
I asked about it. I was awake.
That's funny,
But
like
yeah,
a watcher.
yeah. I mean, it was there. There are some experiences of that I will carry with me forever because you just don't forget. I mean,
Yeah.
I asked him. I said, "So how big is the drill bit that you're using, Doc?" I said, "Because it feels like it's about this big around." He's, oh, it's the size of a dime. I was like, it doesn't feel like it.
Feel like that.
Wow.
That's probably the size of a dime. That's at least 3/4 of an inch, I would think.
Oh yeah, yeah. But when they're boring through your scalp, I guess it's like dental work. If you had cavities filled or anything, you
Next
you
week.
feel the pressure of the drill.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
there's a lot more there's a lot more reverb when you're doing it up here than when you're in here.
Sure.
I'm so glad I was asleep.
But it's
So
about the stories.
I'm also generally the time watcher. We like to do this about an hour just because we value your
Gotcha.
time and
Well, and I mean, like you said, with tangents and everything else, I could spend days.
So what remaining words of wisdom would you like to offer
Um,
on any subject?
well, so if we can see it here, we'll show my tattoo here.
Oh, that's a tat?
Yeah. I don't know if you
What's that a
can
chemical?
the light. So that is the dopamine molecule. So above that, I have in red the words "Don't panic," which is lined from one of my favorite books, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, good book.
And then so instead of an apostrophe for the I have a blue semicolon. That this is not the end of our story. It's merely another chapter.
No, that's cool. That's a great way of looking at it.
So yeah, but that's and I like to say that it's something I need, which is the dopamine, and two things I have to remember with the don't panic and the semicolon.
Yeah.
So,
Well, very good. Well, we appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you,
very
Chris.
much so. Gladly, like I said, anytime I'm willing to chat and
I'm
share
looking at all
stories.
the pamphlets over your shoulder on the back wall. I can see your organizational skills.
I'm not supposed to see that.
It's like a big house stack.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sorting through items, kind of thing, to make room in my office here.
Sure.
So I bring in boxes because we had kind of an influx of cardboard show up over the last few months. So I'm trying to organize and get things boxed up.
Sounds like a good challenge.
To declutter, essentially. So, because I'm finding that I don't really need obstacle courses.
It's like you're child-proofing your house.
Right. I mean, the cats are bad enough wanting to trip me. I don't need to do it myself. So.
Yeah, you need help. Same here.
Yep. Well,
all right, my new friend. It was a pleasure talking to you. We appreciate the
very
time.
much so. Gladly, like I said.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you. And if you have any questions for us, it's Park Right Here podcast at gmail.com. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
You got.
Peace out.
Okay, we're off the air.
Almost.
Almost.